So we're 2 months removed from the release of Scream 6. It was a box office smash. It did really well critically and amongst the fans, but we don't have news really on a Scream 7. There's rumors, there's things percolating, and there's people making assumptions. I was requested by Charlie Greer, a very loyal subscriber of mine, to do a video on what I want from Scream 7. So, let's do it. What's up, guys? Nick here from the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I'm going to talk about what I want to see from Scream 7. There's a lot that was left hanging in Scream 6, although it seemed very definitive at the end, and it did for the most part, but there are places this story could go, and there's places I'd like to see it go. There's things I'd like to see happen with characters, there's finality here in certain places, there's really a lot. So starting off with what I want to see for Scream 7, let's talk about setting. The location of Scream 7. I've heard a lot of people talk about staying in New York because it makes sense. They're still in college, right? I've heard a lot of people throw the idea of Hollywood. Let's do a Scream 3 Part 2 and go back to Hollywood because that was a super fun setting for Scream 3. Me personally, maybe I'm just a whore for them keeping it, I don't know, within what they always do. I don't know. I want to go back to Woodsboro. I want to go back to Woodsboro because I want this 7th movie to really feel like a finale for a lot of characters and for a lot of storylines. I'm well aware it's not going to be the last Scream film ever, nor do I want it to be. I don't think as long as a franchise is successful and it's mostly well received by the fans, I don't think it should ever really end. And as long as they keep that trend going with 7, I'm totally fine with seeing them continue on from here. But they would need a break. So I want this movie to seem final. So I think going back to Woodsboro where it all began makes a lot of sense. So that's what I'd like to see for the setting of Scream 7. Now for some of the characters. Specifically our main characters, the core 4, our original cast that are still around, R.I.P. Dewey, and some of the new people that we got introduced to in Scream 6. Obviously I want to continue seeing from the point of view of Sam and Tara. I want them to be the leads. I'm really starting to like them. I like Tara in Scream 5, and she was good in Scream 6 as well, but I really fell in love with Sam in Scream 6. Melissa Barrera brought it, and I love the character, love the performance, so I really want to see her continue to be the focal point of this trilogy moving forward. As far as the core 4 goes, unfortunately, I think you have to kill one of them. Now, personally, I'd kill Mindy, just because I love Chad, but I could see them killing Chad because he has survived a shitload. I guess you could say both of them have. But I think you do have to kill one of the core 4. Now, I have some people tell me, no, you don't. They didn't kill the original trio in the original movies, and you're not wrong. But I guess for me, I just feel like if this is really the end of a trilogy, and at least the end for a little bit for Scream, there really does need to be some stakes here. So I think somebody has to die there. Now, as long as, as we get into the original cast now, I want Sidney back. Now, I will say this. After seeing Scream 6, I was kind of put at ease saying they don't need her anymore. They really don't need her. Having said that, though, I really do think that she should come back for this one. 5 was a good send-off for Sidney, but we know Sidney's still out there, and I feel like all of these kills are somehow in some way related back to her, even in Scream 6. It was Richie's family, so, I mean, Richie did it because of Sidney, you know what I mean? So it's always tied back to her. But also, I think that with this being the end of a trilogy, and quite possibly the last time we'll see Courtney Cox in these movies too, I think it needs to be epic. And I think there needs to be some finality for our original characters that are still here. So I want to see Sidney back. I was specifically also asked by Charlie about what I want to see with Danny. Look, Danny, I don't think you can make him a killer, nor do I think you should. Danny was the guy, he was a red herring in Scream 6, and he was one that I'm sure a lot of people questioned for a while there, just because that's the formula. But when it was revealed that he was actually very smart and very cunning and very, understanding and respectful and patient and wasn't a murderer, you're like, nah, dude, I like Danny. I don't think it would make sense for his character to be a killer in the next movie. So I don't want to see that personally. I want to see Danny continue to grow. Be a good partner to Sam. Be a support system. Be somebody to lean on and, get a little bit more to do in the next movie. He was good in Scream 6. I really liked the actor, and I would like to see him come back. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. Now, as far as some of the other casts that we have either we've seen or we've heard about, but we haven't seen, I think we do need to have some finality with Sam and Tara's mom. Now, maybe their mom is nobody. Maybe she doesn't play a role in any of this at all, and she really is just an absent kind of shitty mom. That's totally fine. But let's spell that out clearly, because there are a lot of fan theories out there, and I just want to know. Maybe we see her or maybe we don't. But either way, I do think there needs to be finality with their mom. Also, I would like to see Heather Matarazzo back. I really, really would. I think that, she doesn't have to have a big part at all. It can be just like in Scream 5 where she has, a moment. That's totally fine. But I really like Heather, and I think she'd love to come back. Now, selfishly, I would love to find that there's another tape that Randy made somewhere so we could get a Jamie Kennedy cameo. But obviously, probably not going to happen. But that's kind of what I want to see. Now, as far as any of them dying, I don't think you can kill Sidney, nor do I think you should, ever. I really don't think you should kill Sidney. Gale, though. I said going into Scream 6, I thought she was going to die. Well, no, I said I thought she wasn't going to die, but I would be okay with her dying. And then when I thought she was going to die in the movie, in the theater, I'm sitting there going, I'm not ready for this. I don't want this. You guys traumatized me with Dewey. Don't do it again with Gale. But everybody else, I think, is fair game. And you might say, you want Sidney back, but how do you get her back? I'm just going to say, if Gale or Tara were to die in the first act of this movie, I could see Sidney coming into it. So, again, that's what I want to see from the characters. Now, as far as the Ghostface motivation, the Ghostface identity, and the finale here, this is really what everybody's talking about. Look, I have made no bones about it. I want to see Stu factor into this. Now, before you start angrily typing, he's dead. Hold on. I'm not necessarily saying Stu Macher himself. His sister, Leslie Macher, could absolutely play into this. I've talked about this in previous videos and in live streams, but it would make sense for her to have motivation to want to, finish what Stu started or get revenge for Stu. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that. But if I had my druthers, explain away that Stu could come back, because I'd love it. At this point, everybody has all this plot armor in this series. People bitch about it after every movie. What's a little more plot armor for Stu freaking Macher? I'd love to see Stu come back. But regardless, I want the motivation to be tied back to the original. And that's how you bring Sam in there realistically, and you bring Sidney in there realistically. Billy Loomis was one of the two original killers. Sidney was the original final girl in Survivor. I want this motive and the identity of Ghostface to be tied back to that very first movie specifically. Whether that's Stu, whether that's Leslie, whether that's Sam and Tara's mom. I don't know. But I want the identity and the motive to be tied back to that. I also wouldn't be opposed to us not seeing who Ghostface is throughout this movie, and then when they're unmasked, it's the first time we see that actor in this movie. That is always, that I think would play with expectations a lot, because when you're watching these movies, you're always going, okay, you're all a suspect. Which one of you is it? And if you were to be doing that for an hour and 30 minutes, and then in the final act get a reveal of a character you had not seen up to this point in this movie, you'd be like, shit. I think that's a good way to do it, because Scream has gotten to a point where it's kind of obvious sometimes, not always, but at least one of the killers, when it is revealed, you're like, I totally saw that coming. So it'd be cool to kind of pull the wool over our eyes and be like, well, you actually haven't seen the killer throughout this entire movie. I'd like that a lot, but I do think there needs to be finality here for the original cast, for the original Woodsboro storyline. I'm not saying they need to die, but I'm saying this needs to close the book. Now, whether that is the death of an original character, whether that is, the return of Stu Macher, whatever it might be, I think that there needs to be an epic final conclusion for what started it all. That's pretty much all I want from Scream 7. As far as I know right now, it's actually probably not going to start shooting this year, which is why it has not been announced yet. Jenna Ortega is super busy. Melissa Barrera is pretty busy. Jasmine Savoy Brown's pretty busy. I believe the last rumor I heard was that it was going to start early to mid next year. So we're going to have to wait for that. And that's okay. Personally, I think that giving it a little more time to breathe is the right decision. So I'm not against that whatsoever. I'd like to see the cast come back. So if that means they need more time, that's all right with me. Don't mess with a good thing. That's kind of how I feel about it. I saw a rumor like, Paramount's thinking about maybe writing Jenna Ortega out of it. No, do not do that. You can't do that. Just don't. I know Paramount, you love to pump out sequels when they're making money. You don't like to wait. wait a year. Wait a year to go into production. It's not going to hurt you. I promise people will still go to see Scream 7. Just wait. But that's what I want to see from Scream 7 on a surface level. I want to hear what you guys want to see from Scream 7. Please comment down below and let me know what you're hoping to see in the next movie. What are you fearful of? What are you excited about? What are you worried about? Anything and everything down below in the comment section. Please follow me on social media, become a patron today, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out. Sydney.